Hello everyone, Joshua Myers here, and welcome back to my 31 Days of Halloween Review series, and today I'm going to be looking at a classic here, and that's the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974.
What happened was true. The most bizarre and brutal series of crimes in America, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even if one of them survives, what will be left? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. After you stop screaming, you'll start talking about it. Rated R.
The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre stars Marilyn Byrne, Alan Denzinger, Paul A. Parton, I think that's how you pronounce his name, if not, here it is, William Vale, Gunnar Hansen, and is directed by Toby Hooper. The plot of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is that 5 youths on a weekend getaway fall prey to a deprived family of cannibals. One of the things I really liked about this film, honestly, was that I've just forgotten how suspenseful this film really is. It is a genuinely suspenseful movie. It doesn't rely on gore or anything like that. In fact, there's barely any gore in this film. But almost like your brain, like it's weird with your brain with how they do it, because it's like, I remember there being gore, but there was no gore. And every time after I watch it, and after a while of not watching, I remember there being gore in this movie. And then every time I go back and watch it, it's like there's no gore in this whatsoever. There's some here and there, but it's very mild. Like, it's very minimal. But for the most part, it's basically a bloodless movie. And this is something that the original Halloween would do later. You know, it's like, kind of makes you think you've watched a bloodbath, but they're, you know, because it's like your mind pieces together what, you know, what is being shown on the screen. Which a lot of times can be more effective than them actually showing the gore. And that's what this film does, and it achieves at that. It's more effective at, you know, in terms of its scare factor than if they show the gore and everything like that. Also, just this film has a different flair to it than other slasher films. Even in other ones that came out in the same year. This came out the same year the original Black Christmas came out, which is a awesome movie. And yeah, it has a different feel to that as well. And honestly, there's some legit scary things in this movie. Like the whole like hitchhiker scene and the opening of the movie. Like that's legit terrifying actually, and that is why actually whenever my friends or someone suggests picking up a hitchhiker, I'm like, hell no, you know, I don't want to be killed here. So yeah, if any of you out there who don't like to pick up hitchhikers and have been telling your friends, you know, that you don't want to pick up hitchhikers, show them this movie, and they'll probably see why. Also, another positive I have is the atmosphere. The atmosphere in this movie is really good. You know, in terms of like being shocking, but yet terrifying at the same time. It gets under your skin. It's hard to describe it's just all dirty in a kind of more classy, dirty way. Not like what you see with Rob Zombie. Also, another positive I have with this film is the music and the sound effects. Actually, like just the overall sound design in general is amazing, especially on the 4K 40th anniversary Blu-ray, which is where I watched it on today for this review. Like, I'm sitting here, like, I was sitting here with my 4K TV and everything, and it just sounded, like, not only sounded great, but looked amazing, actually, on 4K. I could even, like, in terms of sound design, hear, you know, different sounds all around this room here. And it just, it's like, to the point where I had to pause it to make sure it wasn't actually real noises coming from, you know, around here. So that's how good of sound design they did, especially And I think it transferred very well to this 4K release. Also, most of the acting is actually pretty serviceable, especially from the Leatherface family, or as they were later known as the Sawyer family. They are all putting their damn effort into, you know, this movie. And each and every single one of these family members in that, and Leatherface, of course, are iconic and recognizable. In fact, a little bit of spoiler from my 2003 remake review, which will be done at some point later down the line. I actually prefer the family in this movie than I do the family in the remake. Also, it has not bad social satire, like social commentary, talking about like how, you know, the new ways of like, you know, like with meat processing plants and that did put a lot of people out of business apparently, and you know, and just how the people who used to work at those places kind of coped and everything, and that you see that with the Sawyer family. So, and I thought they handled that pretty well, while not at the same time not being like in your face about it. It's very subtle. Also, again, I like the characters actually, all of them really. In fact, you guys might be surprised by this, but you know, the character I did like out of the main group of cast is the brother Franklin. Actually, the wheelchair-bound brother Franklin. I actually did like him. He was relatable to me, and it's like he was just very relatable and likable for the most part. And a lot of people complain about this character because he's quote-unquote so damn annoying, but I didn't saw that actually. A lot of, I guess, his quote-unquote annoyance is because he's complaining a lot, but that's because, you know, he just had a rough day. And I'm sure in the Texas heat and everything, which, if any of you been to Texas, you know it gets damn hot over there. I've been there before to visit family, and boy is it hot. It's like, I don't know, it's almost like the closest thing you could get to being, like, it's the closest thing to hell you could get in terms of the heat. Especially during the summer. So, with all that in mind, I think it's, like, the reason Franklin comes off like that is because of different things. If you look at it that way, it's understandable. I mean, I bet you would be acting like him too if you had to go through all that and everything. Plus, not to mention, they just picked up like this crazy hitchhiker and even cut Franklin around the wrist. So he could have almost died. So yeah, of course he would be like all complaining and everything. It's like, so yeah, I did like the character of Franklin. I don't see why people found him annoying. And again, I liked all the other characters too, and I really dug the performances in some of these actors. Again, with the Sawyer family, but also with the performance of Marilyn Burns as Sally Harsty, I think that's how you pronounce the character's name. Our final girl in this movie, she did a really good job, and it's unfortunate that she passed away recently. I think it was like a few years ago she passed away. So, before we get on to this review any further, a moment of silence for Marilyn Burns. May she rest in peace. And also, the production design of this movie is really good, actually. Like, and just one of the things I could say about this movie in general, like, with the feeling and everything, it feels real, actually. Like, it just feels real and uncomfortable. But I could keep on going on and on about my positives with this movie, so let's talk about my negatives I have, because I do have a few. Well, just maybe one or two. One of the negatives I have, honestly, is that I feel like there's sometimes where I get they're trying to build up suspense in some shots, but I feel like they could have cut down some of these shots because I think there's some scenes that go on for a bit too long. Maybe they could have toned down the complaining in this movie so that people didn't saw him as just annoying. I didn't find him annoying, but I could see that being a problem. And honestly, for me, those are my only negatives. So with that said, I'm going to give the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Honestly, for me, this is a really good film. I could see why it became such a classic as it did. It builds up on the suspense in it and doesn't show the gore, making people think that they saw it. And it just has a lasting impression to the point where people think, like, they could even swear to you that they saw gore in this movie. Now that's impressive. I have to give Tobe Hooper credit on that. You know? And see, that just shows how much more powerful, you know, bloodless films could be. Because it's like, again, most people now when they try to remember the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they remember, they could swear they remember seeing blood and gore in this movie. But there is a little bit, but not as much as they're thinking. Like, this film is rather impressive, especially for, you know, a film that came out before the original Halloween. Honestly, I think the two best ones that I could think of in terms of, like, slasher films that, you know, kind of helped pioneer what slasher films would have been in the 80s and that. I think are really good is this and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the original Black Christmas. And I think both these films had an influence on the original Halloween in that sense, as well as other films like Psycho and stuff like that. So that's it for this review. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.